weather and atmospherics and how that would
Oh,
affect.
shoot, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Just
other things that
maybe
can affect.
Fog versus bluebird day or rain or how that's impacting maybe one laser versus a different one.
Extreme humidity even maybe.
Sure. Yeah, it can. Yeah, definitely. It's interesting. You'll see on the same rangefinder, you will see different ranging performance if you're like hunting out west at higher altitude than you would, in the Midwest or in the East Coast at a lower altitude.
You said better
ranging performance. Yeah. So at higher altitude, the air is less dense. So you're getting kind of less, I guess, resistance or less diffraction on the laser signal that's being sent out. And typically, I guess, at higher altitudes, also it's going to be drier, right?
Undoubtedly, yeah. And in the Western climates where guys are using those are going to be by nature drier too.
Yeah. And that's probably more of a driver than anything else because humidity, if you think of it at like a small scale, you've got, water vapor that's in the air. And that water, if you think about like, just looking at something through a droplet of water and how that distorts the image and how the light is kind of going through and being refracted back.
Trying to shoot a fish with a smoke pole muzzleloader.
Yeah.
Through water.
Got to compensate for that.
You got to compensate for that.
But we should come out with a water compensator.
Jim, thanks for really putting that into terms that most folks are going to understand.
Right. Well, if you listen to our
who hasn't been in that situation,
baiting fish versus baiting deer podcast, you know exactly what we're talking about.
So yeah, humidity and rain and snow are all going to affect ranging performance to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get that signal kind of weakened or diffused as it's coming back to the rangefinder. Now, what's really cool is you can kind of plan on that, or you can kind of plan for that, rather, with the algorithm that's doing the signal processing on the rangefinder. So some of our newer stuff that we've come out with, like the Fury, like this guy, it performs really, really consistently in rain. You won't have the same max range as you would if it's a non-rainy day or a dry day, but it's not going to be totally handicapped to the point where some other products are, where if you try to range in dense fog or you try to range in rain or snow, and it just gives you like a totally nonsensical number or it just doesn't give you a range return at all. It's a cool thing that you can kind of tune the rangefinder for and in those situations.
So is that that's like mapping your ECU or something for a wet day?
Yeah, I guess loosely analog to that.
So you said it's something you plan ahead. So like you can go into a setting and be like, hey, it's raining.
No,
out. Or is it's just that it performs better.
Right.
We sort of design that into the algorithm so that
So it's like, here's what you could expect.
You don't have to manually go in it.
So right. hey rangefinder, here's what you would expect to see from a rainy day or a snowy day. So if you see this type of signal return, treat it as such and kind of filter that out as noise and wait for a stronger signal to come back and use that.
Okay, gotcha.
So you might see the ranging time decrease a little bit. But at the same time, ranging times it's taking longer to think. Ranging times have gotten so quick now. It's like, you're getting a range back basically at the same time it takes for a human reaction time. We're talking like quarter second. I think a human reaction time is, 240 thousandths of a second, so 0.24, a little bit under.
That's what I was going to
say. So at what point is all this technology that you're putting into rangefinders and helping them learn the situation and smart homes and smart cars and smart keys and all that, at what point are they all going to start communicating to rise against us?
Well, it's already happening, Jimmy, so it's too late. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
No, I don't think the singularity has happened
yet. It's all
about
short extension cords.
Yeah.
They just can't go as far.
Right. Yeah.
Well, that's good to know, though.
Yeah, none of that's probably anyone who's spent time hunting with rangefinders. And if you've been out in rain and fog and snow, I think most people have probably had experiences where you're simply not, you're not getting readings or you're not reading as far as you think it should. It's in
your experience, if it's just getting real nasty out, and let's say you have a rangefinder that doesn't have quite this level of technology, for example, like the Fury or the new one we're going to introduce here in a second, do you kind of just can your rangefinder at that point and go to your reticle, or like what has your experience been?
It would depend, outside of if you were rifle hunting, for example, a lot of times you'd be in conditions that would be such that they're sort of effectively shortening your effective shooting range at the same time.
Oh, okay.
So, a lot of times it doesn't really work against, I can see in archery sometimes where you're working at shorter distances, still, very viable to shoot with a bow, but you're struggling to range stuff. That could happen. Usually it's a matter of compensating, waiting for the weather to change a little bit or perhaps trying to get a little bit closer, something like that. Rob didn't touch on one of the other things you do run into is daylight versus cloud cover. And when you're out on a very bright sunny day, a lot of times that'll adversely affect the rangefinder's ability to get a signal back.
Because the wavelengths from all the sun are entering the same.
I would guess that probably has a lot to do with it. And and there in a scenario like that, if you were struggling at long range to hit something and it was very sunny out, perhaps you could wait till a cloud came over. And even just having a cloud come over the sun can all of a sudden make the difference between getting a signal back or not.
Yeah, that direct sunlight is kind of a lot of that noise you mentioned, right?
Right, because you're getting full spectrum light out of the sun from UV to IR to a certain extent. Don't quote me on the exact wavelength bounds, but yeah, on the IR side of things, higher wavelength side of things, you can run into
your lasers. Your laser is just yet another one of many wavelengths the receiver is receiving.
Right, competing signals.
Yeah, that makes sense.
What about maybe like a lack of light, like early in the morning and late in the day? Can that have an impact at all?
I don't think as much as it would visually, just being able to not see as far.
You made the engineer say,
Yeah.
Well done.
I'm just going to throw down the headset and walk out.
Well done.
Mark checked all his boxes for the podcast. No, I don't believe so. I think it's more, like I was saying, you're limited visually with how far you can see. Because you're emitting, the light's being emitted from the laser, irrespective of what the conditions are. It's the ability to receive it, I guess. So I suppose if the lower light conditions are somehow adversely affecting the reflectance of the target for whatever reason, then somehow, but I don't think so.
Target's still the same target.
Still the same target.
Because when the sun comes up, it's going to reflect as much as it would in the bright daylight, probably, right? So if you shine a laser at it, you're just adding that light to it, maybe. Who knows? If you can see it, give it a shot.
Yeah,
with your rangefinder. Okay, let's not quote that.
If you can see it, shoot it, Jimmy Hamilton.
No, with a rangefinder. Let's just add that fine print in there.
What caveat?